Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is walking back a key promise to some of her main supporters, and she's taking action personally to protect the unvaccinated from what she calls discrimination.
Just making one amendment to one bill was not going to protect the rights and freedoms of citizens next time around. So we realized it had to be a much broader review of legislation, probably much broader changes.
There is the Premier yesterday explaining why she will not be seeking to change Alberta's Human Rights Act to protect people who choose not to be vaccinated. She had promised that change would be one of her priorities for the legislature's fall session, which begins today with the speech from the throne. Instead, Smith and her cabinet say they are speaking directly to groups with vaccine mandates, a move the opposition calls an intimidation tactic. So Natalie Collada begins our coverage there this morning. Natalie, tell us about the change in Alberta and what's behind it.
Good morning, Heather. Yes, Smith appears to be backing away from one of those key promises last month. She said making a change to Alberta's Human Rights Act to prevent employers from refusing to hire someone who is unvaccinated was one of her priorities for that fall sitting, which of course starts this afternoon. And it appears that now the mending that act is no longer happening. The government House leader said the government instead is going to focus on other things, specifically affordability issues and the Alberta Sovereignty Act. And now at a press conference yesterday, the Premier said she will still work to protect the rights of those who are unvaccinated, but it will be without that legislation. Smith says she will personally call Alberta businesses who have a COVID-19 mandate, ask them to reconsider it. And she gave the example of what happened with the upcoming Arctic Winter Games.
Calling people who when I hear these instances, there was an instance where, for instance, the Arctic Winter Games wanted $1.2 million from us to support their effort, and they were discriminating against the athletes, telling them they had to be vaccinated. So we asked them if they would reconsider their vaccination policy in the light of new evidence, and they did, and I was pleased to see that.
In a statement, the Arctic Winter Games organizers say they made the decision to align with current public health advice. Smith says, though, she will personally call Alberta businesses who have COVID-19 vaccine mandates, even if they don't depend on government funding, adding she wants people to tell their MLAs about businesses and employers with vaccine mandates. Heather.
What kind of reaction has there been to the move so far, Natalie?
Well, the NDP is calling it irresponsible, worried that Smith and her ministers making these calls will chase away potential investors. Political science professor Lisa Young calls the decision not to introduce the legislation for the unvaccinated a significant pivot, and for multiple reasons. Have a listen.
If you introduce legislation and it's debated in the legislature, then the debate over that continues for a period of time. The opposition has a chance to stand up in the legislature and share their views. What she's doing is trying to, on the one hand, keep her supporters happy by saying, look, I'm achieving that objective, but through different means, without having to take the heat.
We are expecting to hear more today from the Premier. Smith is set to make her throne speech at about 3 o'clock local time this afternoon, so we'll be watching for that very closely. Heather?
Natalie, thank you very much.